Hello Key Stage 2, it's Mrs. Curtis again. I'm going to read the fourth part I've chosen from this book, and this time I thought we'd look at chapter 5, the brain, because I think it's fascinating. If your brain didn't work, nothing else in your body would work. Your brain controls everything in your body, and we're using our brains a lot at the moment with home learning, aren't we? So let's see what it says about the brain in Adam Kay's very funny, entertaining way. He says, I don't know how often you stop and think about your brain, but if you ever do stop and think about your brain, it's your brain that's doing all the thinking about itself. Weird, right? If you've never thought about it before, here are the basics. Your brain is a supercomputer that sits inside your skull and controls pretty much everything you do. It's more powerful than any computer on Earth. In fact, it's made up of 100 trillion different connections. It's hard to describe how big 100 trillion is. It's the number of stars in 1,000 galaxies. If you had 100 trillion pounds, you could buy every single house on the planet. If someone started counting on the first day the Earth existed, they still wouldn't have got up to 100 trillion yet. What I'm trying to say is the brain is really, really, really amazing. Even your brain, which sometimes forgets to tell you to brush your teeth. Haha, that sounds familiar. If you're feeling a bit peckish, so you pick your nose, or you decide you don't like your brother, so lock him in the bathroom, or you've had enough of a book, not this one obviously, and chuck it across a room, then that's your brain doing its job, bossing the rest of your body around. The craziest thing about the brain is that even though scientists have been studying it for thousands of years, there's still loads we don't know. It's very secretive and it likes to keep its mysteries to itself. I'll be honest, this makes it slightly tricky writing an entire chapter about it, but I'll work out something to say. I'll just use my brain. So, I don't know if you've ever taken your brain out and weighed it, but it's about 1.3 kilograms. That's the same as 4 iPads. The reason it's all wrinkled up is just to cram as much brain in there as possible. If it was all unfolded, it would be about as big as your pillow. Once again, and I can't emphasise this enough, please don't unfold your brain to check if it's pillow-sized. The last thing I need right now is a load of grown-ups complaining to me that their pillowcases have been ruined by brain juice. Ugh. So, the bits of the brain. You know how in cartoons brains look like squidgy, freaky, wrinkly lumps of horror. Well, I'm thrilled to tell you that the cartoons are pretty accurate. The main part of the brain, the bit that looks like the folded up chain of sausages gone wrong, is called the cerebrum. It's divided into left and right halves. And one weird thing is that each half controls the opposite side of your body. So, for example, your right brain looks after your left nostril and your left elbow, and your left brain looks after your right ankle and your right bottom cheek. The cerebrum is divided into lots of different lobes. That's a weird word, isn't it? Lobes, 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 lobes. Like globes, but without the g. Stop distracting me, brain. Where was I? Oh, that's right. Each of the lobes has different jobs. I mean, it's fair enough. There's a lot of stuff for the brain to be arranging. So it splits up the work, like when your teacher makes you all tidy up the classroom because they can't be bothered to. That's not true. There's a really good diagram there of all the different parts of the brain and what it does. Frontal lobes. These are the lobes at the front of the brain. Clive and his naming committee weren't very imaginative with this one. They're in charge of thinking, talking and moving, so pretty important. Temporal lobes. These are at the sides underneath the parts of your head called the temples. Again, a bit of a lazy name, Clive. The temporal lobes look after hearing and recognising things like people's faces. This is quite handy, otherwise every morning when you came down to breakfast you would see a bunch of total strangers. So your brain, you've got face recognition, hearing, we've got thinking, talking, moving, touch or pain, and sight and balance. See, all these things are so important. I'll just read a little bit more. Now, I don't know how you say this, Key Stage 2, parietal lobes. Whoa, Clive's just started making up words now. These sit above the temporal lobes and process things like pain and touch. I'll have a go at this word, occipital lobes. These are at the back of your brain and are in charge of your sight. It's slightly weird that the occipital lobes are at the back and not near your eyes. Maybe your body read the How to Make a Brain instructions in reverse. There are a few other bits of the brain that hang out with the cerebrum and its lovely lobes. Some important parts are the cerebellum. This is a wrinkly walnut at the bottom of your brain that helps with your balance. I mean, it looks like a walnut, it's not actually a walnut. Brainstem. If you think your cerebrum is a strange, grey, disgusting flower, then the brainstem is the stem underneath it. It looks after involuntary actions, which are things you don't even think about. Breathing, for instance. Whoops, I've made you think about breathing now, haven't I? In a minute, when you've stopped thinking about breathing, the brain stem will have you covered. Plus, it keeps your heart beating and sorts out anything else you do without thinking, like when your mouth waters because you see a slice of chocolate cake, or some fox poo if you're Pippin. Another thing your brainstem handles is fight or flight response. This happens when your body senses danger. For instance, if you wake up and there's a lion in your bedroom, your brain makes the decision whether to stay there and face it, that's fight, or run away as quickly as possible, flight. I recommend this option. It's why your heart beats faster and you breathe quicker when you're scared. Your brainstem has decided to get as much oxygen as possible into your body in case your leg muscles need to make a speedy exit. Hippocampus, nothing to do with hippos, I'm afraid, or camping for that matter. What was Clive thinking? The hippocampus helps you with your memories. So if you remember seeing a hippo or going camping, then that's all thanks to your hippocampus. Right, I'm going to stop there, Key Stage 2, and I'll read you a different part tomorrow.